Says we're ready, Greg.
I think so.
Oh, we're not. Oh,
So
okay.
It's slowly.
Okay. Almost ready. I didn't turn around and
just a
look.
warning.
I didn't turn around and look. Ready in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, except they called off that launch this morning.
Yeah, I heard.
Did they call
I
off
heard.
finally?
Only because of leaking fuel.
Yeah.
Is that the issue?
Yeah.
Small problem.
Yeah. I'd be scrambling to get out of it too.
Well, there wasn't anybody in it.
No. It doesn't spark time.
Well, welcome to the August 29th meeting of the Riley County Commissioners. Please stand and join in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning.
Morning.
Comments, public comments. Catherine.
Okay, well, Thursday afternoon, I attended the Riverfront Development Vision meeting held at Charleston Wilson. So I got to see their offices they've been working on.
Oh,
That's all those noises they were making.
Yeah. Phil Anderson brought the new members up to date on the history of the group that has been meeting and working on a development plan since 2018. And at that time, 14 K-State landscape architecture students produced renderings of the Kansas River development ideas. And at that point, Riverfront MHK was formed. At this stage of the plan, their goal is to raise private funds for a Kansas River master plan adjacent to downtown, and will need approval by the by Manhattan and Raleigh County Commissions to begin the fundraising process. So I think that will come after this visionary team. I've seen most renderings, but had not visited the locations under consideration. After 22 years in this town, I'd never been down in those areas. So on Saturday afternoon, Phil Anderson took me on a tour of the area, and we discussed the various options and possibilities that could be an economic plus to the city and county in the future. So I look forward to learning more and working on this committee, and I'll be reporting back to you on all the developments. Friday had a PT session in the morning and later visited with Julie Gibbs at the health department. I plan to attend the September 8th meeting of the CHIP Team and Wellness Coalition. Finally, my fireplace project at home is finished on Friday. So I was able to clean up the house. Yay.
You tried it out yet?
No, I still need to get them turn it on.
Time.
Yeah.
Balance out outside
yeah.
with inside and see if it works or not.
Yeah, no, I can wait for that. All I have to do is crank it up. So, it takes a lot of organization. It turned out really well. It only took me like 7 months to this point. So it's just all the delays in materials and that kind of thing. So I understood how people get frustrated with projects. Sunday went to church and then went to lunch with my friends in out of town. Went for a buffet. Anyway, that's it for me.
John.
Thursday afternoon, I started off by listening to the Connecting Kansas Counties monthly Zoom call, listened by the Kansas Association of Counties. This month's featured presentation was by Jay Vanderwerf, Federal Preparedness Coordinator and the Director for National Preparedness Division through FEMA Region 7. As you can probably imagine, that's our region. That probably makes sense. Presented a lasting legacy. A life you built is worth protecting, and how to prepare for disasters and create a lasting legacy for you and your family. It's more of a kind of individual, how to deal and respond to not just environmental emergencies like we've dealt with, but natural disasters and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty good presentation. A lot of questions afterwards. I had a few myself, but I refrained. We also had a couple of KAC updates, including the 7th annual City Selfie Day, which occurred on August 15th, 2022. A lot of counties got involved in that, just taking pictures from various places and stuff. So think we tried to do something last year from the courthouse, but Sling County or somebody beat us out. So anyway, some discussions on the 47th annual Kansas Association of Counties Conference and Exposition being held in Overland Park in October 17th through the 19th. Could be a little bit of a different format, it sounds like, but they haven't got it all summed up just yet. So be on the lookout for that. And then there was also several Kansas counties that gave updates as well. Later Thursday afternoon, I was invited to and attended a hosted reception at the 1st Infantry Division headquarters up on Fort Riley. Full disclosure, it's the first time I've been up on Fort Riley in quite some time. Probably need to thank everybody up there for providing the pass. That was easy peasy, just right on through. So I have to wait and go through all the stuff you have to do to accomplish that. So that was good. This reception was for Senator Jerry Moran and General James McConville, 40th Army Chief of Staff. I brought the Chief of Staff with him. The reception was well attended by many officials and others from the region. Allowed me the opportunity to network and really get to meet some quality personnel from Fort Riley, some of whom just came back from Poland. So they're all trying to get settled in at the same time there, and heard some horror stories about moving. Yes, when you're in the military, those things happen, but certainly appreciated the invite and look forward to some other events like this in the future. And I try to clear off time in order to do that, because I really haven't done much networking up before. But then again, we lost 2 years in the middle of that. So I'll blame half of it on that and half of it on me. So spent the weekend, watched some college football. Probably my favorite time of the year. Could have been a little cooler out. Could have been a lot cooler out. It's with no important games other than maybe, Nebraska, but obviously that one alone this morning. Glad to see that it's game week here. Don't know about everybody else, but it feels kind of normal, even though it's been a couple of years from normalcy. So really looking forward to that too. So, and we got some rain.
Better than
that
none.
much. I don't know how much that
Better
much
than
is,
none.
but we'll go with
Just meant a little bit.
It's kind of knocked down the dust. is
Yeah,
all.
not a lot.
It rained pretty good here, but it got
Yeah.
hot so quick it just soaked it up. So maybe we'll get some more tonight. Maybe I'll go out and wash the truck, and then that'll for
I
sure.
thought about washing mine just to help the odds.
Yeah, I did mine yesterday, so.
Okay. So everybody in the room, wash your vehicles. We will get rain tonight. And then that just means it'll be hot and humid for the rest of the week. Apples, oranges, whatever. So that's all I got.
You said no comments about Nebraska. I mean, until Elizabeth comes in, right?
Well, we've got a few of them amongst us.
Yeah.
Kevin and IT.
We've got a few of them amongst us.
Mac, for me, it was just a quiet weekend working on projects around the house and reviewing items for this week's meetings. That was it. There's good.
Yeah, I think we could solve that by asking a specific question on the interview questions, but Elizabeth said we can't do that. So I figured a way around. I said, if you were to pick a color as your favorite color, purple, red, or crimson and blue. That's right. So I think we could get around it that way.
Usually
I think
review the
you
resumes.
need to add a couple other colors, just in case,
Those are
yellow.
the ones we have the most difficulty with around here. Commissioner Riley County Personnel Action Form for Olivia Olson, seasonal and Public Works Parks Department, separation of service. All three signed, please. I know there was some trouble with the minutes. I don't know if the commissioners have had a chance to review them. If there's any changes to the minutes, they are out there now.
Yeah, I can remember last Monday, that's asking quite a bit.
Yeah, well,
Me as well.
I printed them out, I reviewed them, and everything looks fine to me, so.
Ready for a motion on the board is.
Wait, which minutes?
The 20. I mean,
25th.
I did quote it,
Okay.
so, Yeah,
I'm sure we don't,
it was in the track stuff, but
Yeah.
it wasn't on the,
Uh-huh.
our.
This one, yeah.
okay. Well, with that in mind, then I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the minutes as written from the August 25th, 2022 Riley County Commission meeting.
I would second that.
Been moved been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the August 25th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Have the tentative agendas of the commissioners.
Aye.
Yeah. Any items for next week's press conference? Okay, next commissioner, got a bit of a break. Mr. Holman's up at 9 o'clock.
That's what. I don't know, somebody said it was on WWW, I didn't see it there, but somebody sent us a link from TV5. My daughter had signed up this thing signed up to get a free mattress. It was Blue Star Families or something, as a group that, and then she hadn't heard about it for months, and then she got a call a couple of weeks ago saying, you won, you get a new mattress. And it's one of those Sleep Number mattresses. Well, that's great. And then I said, okay, they're delivering it Friday. He says, when you need to have the whole family there when they deliver. Okay. Clyde Richards-Alaire from Chiefs was the one, because it's a coordination between the Chiefs and that Blue Star. He showed up and they had filming it, and they're all standing there going, and then, of course they mispronounced their last name, but they still got it. And my daughter was on camera a few times, but my son-in-law was on interview. I said, he said, well, they said we got the delivered mattress, but you have to be there. I'm like, oh, okay. So I carry up, and all of a sudden, Chiefs running back walks up my driveway.
That's a shock, huh?
Yeah,
No doubt. That's cool.
it's one of those.
Cool.
One of those.
That's really cool.
Number adjustable and
Uh-huh.
everything, and so then he brought jerseys and stuff and signed them for the kids and the football.
Really?
Yeah. So it was really neat.
That'd been a dream come true, huh, John?
I wasn't.
Better than the
staying
sheep they
there.
normally show up.
Yeah, what's really going on? And everybody has to be there when you deliver it. They're going, what's the deal?
That's
You know?
odd, yeah.
That's cool.
But it's
That's
for
really cool.
military, it's for military families that they do
Oh,
it.
really?
Because both his parents were in the service. His
Mhm.
mom was in the Army, his dad was in the Marines.
Right.
Neat.
So it was,
Really neat. Kids will remember that.
yeah. Even the one that was in college, she's just down the road in college,
Uh-huh.
but she was there too. Crazy.
I just add one thing to that. Can somebody reach back out and have a good year, please? I need it for fantasy league.
Oh.
So we know which running back you picked. One.
But also, because on the TV person, they're going, so the Wahhabs, I think it's Wahab. It's got Wahhabs.
It would be a difficult name if
Yeah.
you're not familiar with it. I know nothing about the fantasy league football, but my future son-in-law who works here in town does. And I guess running backs are oftentimes the first pick.
No, you usually want to try to set up your quarterbacks. Because overall, what I try to do, my strategy is I try to get the quarterback, and then I try to get skill position player from the same team. So but it hurts you on a bye week because
Yeah.
both of them will be gone. But usually try to set up quarterback. Trying to get decent receivers though this year has been a nightmare.
Yeah,
I don't really have a true number one on mine.
he works for an alternate local physical therapy place. And they have a fantasy football league thing they're starting there. And in order to see who picks first, they all had to run 40s
Oh,
in their work attire. And he did win. And it's amazing. He's a big kid. He's 6'2", 220. He's a big kid. And my daughter, who was a sprinter, she says he's fast and he won it. And Holden was saying, how's that big guy run that fast? He ran 4.9 in dress clothes.
It's not bad.
Dress clothes, dress shoes.
Oh, shoes, oh. Oh,
We've done all of ours auto draft for, I think this is the 8th year we played. And I'd like to do a live draft. And I'm like, well, even if everybody's not here in Kansas, which they're not, I said, we can set up Zoom or something and do it that way. And
For sure. Make it more fun.
yeah, might try to do that next year.
Yeah, I know nothing about fantasy football.
me either. What about regular?
I'm
To
not
say it
saying
really
I
makes
do,
you
but
look at games
I-
differently.
I am,
Obviously.
yeah, I am coming off a championship this year, so I'm not saying I know everything, but I am defending a trophy that's supposed to exist that I still haven't gotten yet.
Sounds to me like
Anybody listening this morning?
you're destined for last place this year. Then.
Probably. auto draft just did not like me, but I got Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, so that's a good foundation.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
And we play where you have defense and then 4 defensive players.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know nothing about it.
It's a 10-10 league, so once everybody's drafted, I mean, there's not much left to pick from after that.
I'm just regular for regular old college football
You know,
and Chiefs.
well, it was fun watching College Game Day over the weekend. God, that was a hot, rotten mess.
Why?
They did it off-site, so they did it via Zoom. It just doesn't work.
Why'd they do that?
Well, they didn't really have a site to play at necessarily, I guess, unless they wanted to travel to Ireland, which I don't know if everybody caught. Apparently, they lost the internet like halfway through the second quarter or something.
Mhm.
The stadium just made beer free the rest of the game. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, dead serious. Said free beer.
Oh, man.
I haven't seen any videos or anything of that. There's got to be something out.
So what's the
Even the announcers are talking like, can we take an extra break?
tenor of the Nebraska faithful right now?
It's not good.
I didn't figure it would be.
I'm not surprised that there's for sale signs at Scott Frost's yard this morning, would surprise me.
He got a frosty reception when he
He
came
did.
home.
Did they allow him on the plane? Come on, or is he still end up?
Press conference wasn't too in like beneath there. I mean, he basically
There's coaches on
all the coaches under the bus. That's just
I've
not
kind of
good
seen
for you.
that from him before.
That's not a good sign. But
Never
it's
him.
really not a
Well, read something that said, and I didn't know, said he's had as many offensive coordinators as he has win in his 5 years, he has as many offensive coordinators as he has wins in the last year.
But here's the stat that got me. If KU wins their game Friday night, they have the same amount of wins as Nebraska over the last 3 seasons.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I didn't
that's-
realize it was that bad.
What?
But 3 seasons.
Well, now KU did real well last year.
Really?
That's probably when they got.
Something I didn't realize was how many of their losses were by
Yeah.
single digits
Well, I said
last year.
Yeah.
all
Mhm.
9 losses were by single digits. That's what I watched part of it. I watched most of the second quarter.
This is
Then I
fifth
went
year?
outside and work, yeah. And did you hear what he did his contract last year to come back? He took a $1 million cut. And his buyout,
Yeah.
cut in half.
I think you do one of 2 things at this point. Either you drop the axe now, or you wait till the end of and that's the thing. There's just there really isn't a coach that you're going to snag right now. It's going to stop the bleeding this year.
And well,
So
unless you think you have someone on staff that's a potential to see what they can do, you
they're
know.
all new coordinators. So I would
Oh,
probably
okay.
say
Yeah, I don't know
on
anything
that.
about their makeup.
Like I said, I'd watched it and then I came back in and I was out working in the yard and I came back in, turned it on and
They
I
started
thought the
off-
game was over, but it was just when
Yeah,
the last half of the fourth quarter when
28-17.
Northwestern was running out of time, just killing the clock, run time. Just the rest couldn't stop. They just ground it out.
Interesting.
Nebraska might be better offensively, but it looks like maybe they're going to be a little worse defensively.
Yeah.
In the Big Ten, that's not a good sign either. Didn't they beat Northwestern like
57-10 or something
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year, but huge. You know, I see Northwestern was not very good. They've been good for the year. They last year, they were down.
kind of they do that? They'll have like 2 really good years, and then they're down for a few, and then they're up for a few, and
And they were, Fitzgerald, he's looked like the 4th longest tenured coach.
second in the Big Ten, I think, behind Barron's.
Oh, yeah, Iowa, and Oklahoma State's coach.
Mike Gundy.
Who is it? I was kind of, they were talking about, I think there's one other one that.
Well, I don't know. You know, Nick Saban's getting kind of up there with Alabama at this point in time
Yeah.
too. 13, 14 years.
Northwestern, there's always been some time, other places when he had those down years, they might got rid of it.
Well, Northwest has a private school too, so a lot of people know that. You think, you know, being
one of the big
being suburban Chicago, that it'd be easy to recruit some,
high academics.
and it's true. They're one of those that's up there on that list too, when it comes to academics, like people don't take it real serious. I think there's a game on Thursday night and a couple games on Friday night.
KU plays on Friday, don't they? Who they play?
So,
Rice,
North
Duke.
Dakota.
Oh, was it North Dakota? Oh, I think. So it was saying something about Rice. I don't really pay attention to that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just saw it on the news this morning. Thought, oh, that's interesting. Didn't know they played on Friday.
It's Thursday night.
Question. I know, is it Ohio State Notre Dame play over the weekend? That should be pretty good.
Alabama, Texas, that this
That's
weekend.
the other one, yeah.
And then one little snippet I saw on what little TV I saw this weekend, Future Son had some sporting channel on for Heisman votes of these three guys. Deuce Vaughn made it on like the top 4 for one guy.
Huh.
Was a potential.
Somebody was saying that Tim Tebow was talking him up on what's the SEC network or something.
Oh, really?
Mhm. Oh, yeah, West Virginia and Pittsburgh.
Thursday?
Night. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be good.
That'd be a good game. Oklahoma State's playing too.
Oh, really?
Central Michigan. I think there's a game on Monday too. Usually have a Labor Day game.
Well, if you wanna ride the steam engine train, it's got a big weekend.
No,
They have a way,
That's
regular
Sunday,
dinner
yeah.
trains, excursions,
They used to,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and
I was gonna say, they usually, maybe not in recent years for obvious reasons, but they usually do that this time of the year.
yeah, and this is the last one before, well, and then they're gonna run Christmas trains this year,
Oh, really?
which is kind of cool. They have one night, I think Christmas Eve, they're gonna do a military night where they're gonna take military families to Enterprise, meet a bus with another 100 people and then take them, but it's gonna be a big Christmas Eve thing for the military families at no charge to them.
Cool.
I don't know if that's the steam engine or regular.
Can you find Tennessee Tech?
I love that steam engine.
South Dakota, see the planes, it's pretty good in the
Yeah.
old Sunny division, but
Yeah.
It's neat.
Oh, my friend Steve, he's really involved with that. 6
Oh, is he?
years, yeah. He's retired.
it'll be interesting to see what the secondary looks like on the
Train
depth charts. I've heard some names, but interested to see how the linebacker from Nebraska figures out too. Will Homeless, we technically have 3. And apparently Cade Warner, his family were on Celebrity
Yeah, there
Family
was.
Feud yesterday. I didn't catch.
Oh, they were.
Yeah.
I didn't catch it. But
Oh,
I'd
funny.
heard about it, and then I didn't think, and then I saw something last night or something, but I think they won.
did they?
Oh, they did win?
It was Kurt Warner. It was that celebrity.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know there was. So it was Warner versus Oral Hartsheiser. I think.
Oh.
I think that's who was playing. But yeah, Cade was on that.
Neat.
He's one of the captains this year too.
Any word, has Skylar made the cut?
Won't know till tomorrow.
Each the highest rating of anybody, any quarterback in preseason.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
5 touchdowns on 500 yards or something.
No interception.
You'd think he'd make the cut.
It just kind of depends
Well,
on if they want to keep a good
Bridgewater.
quarterback or not.
They're playing Bridgewater too much. Didn't
Now, which team is he with?
Miami.
Miami.
He's a good fit there.
You think practice QB.
Yeah, he'll be on the practice squad for sure. Yeah. Bridgewater with that severe near injury to start his career out hasn't really settled in one place. Tua hasn't been exactly healthy or stable either. But he looked like
need to keep three.
he looked like a whole different quarterback in preseason. I mean, just darts. Guys, Tyreek and you got Jalen Waddle, guys that can just flat get down. Yeah, got a pretty good tight end.
He was the one. Skyler's been in the second string.
It's true.
That's good. Hope he does well.
It's a good recruiting tool for us. I'm going to say that the coach has 3 NFL quarterbacks on roster right now. Two of them should be starting. Carson Wentz and Trey Lance.
Like Carson, I sure like picking on that guy.
Just hasn't really been able to stay healthy.
Who's the other one? Is he out? One for Wednesday. Sometimes there. Most could have
Easton Stick.
Oh, yeah.
He might be in the practice squad. I don't know. I guess recruiting will probably slow down here for a little bit. Probably won't hear too much.
Basketball, there was a guy over the weekend, the transfer, and then the transfer said it was listed its final schools, had 6 schools, and listed K-State as one of them. We've already got a full.
This day and age, it doesn't maybe hurt to have a few of those kind of, because really up until the season starts,
They're saying, we've already got all the scholarships going. I think he waited too long to make a decision.
no idea what to expect out of this team. None.
Which one?
K-State basketball.
Yeah, he's got a puzzle to put together there.
When did they start? Beginning of October practice?
Sounds like we got some potential talent in there.
Somebody of that young group of transfers needs to step up and take charge off and on the court, probably. It's a big key.
Seems like he must be selling a good message with, guys that he's getting in. So hopefully they can put it together.
At the number, 7th recruiting class in the country right now? 23?
Yeah. Got your season tickets, Greg?
Yep. We do.
Hope it's good.
He was talking to a friend of mine from Holt a couple weeks ago. They were out. Said something about basketball. He's a big football and big basketball too, but said something about, I don't know what we're gonna do with basketball. I said, well, we got our tickets. And he goes, you bought tickets last year. You're nothing to be judged by.
What did Bruce end up doing?
I haven't heard of it. He disappeared.
Did he move?
They had a house down in Florida. I do know that, but I don't.
No,
I just wondered if he stayed in the community or.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think so. I mean, Clancy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Clancy, Holman, Riley County, Kansas.
I know, I just caught that too. It's like vertigo. Is that the slide of hands from what you're gonna discuss or what?
All right, continue to use. Just want to touch base on the project list and glad to answer any questions that you have for that reporting period. And then I want to touch base just briefly on the upcoming meeting this coming Thursday of the Kansas Association of Counties Legislative Policy Committee. They're doing a kind of truncated version of that. It's both hybrid and it's going to be also live attendance, but it's not at the KAC offices. It's the Topeka Public Library. So, as I mentioned before, just needed to find out if one of you is interested in participating in that, either by Zoom or in person. And probably because these involve county business, it would be best if you not participate, even by watching, quite frankly, if you're not going to be there. The board knows what the issues are, and know which the four issues you got out there.
It's Wednesday.
I'm sorry.
It's Wednesday.
Did I say Thursday?
You said Thursday.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Apologize for that. I'm glad you caught it. So assuming I remember what day it is, it's probably best that just one commissioner attend either in person or by Zoom, and we can, I think it might be team meetings. I'm not sure which one of those online services. I'd like to hear from you though, who wants to attend and be the representative. I did talk with Jay Hall a little bit, the general counsel. In years past, it's always been assumed that live attendance by at least one commissioner is a really good idea whenever items are in front of the KAC policy committee. But all candor, things have kind of changed because he said he fully expects them to have as many members of the committee present by Zoom as they will have attending person. Just people are used to that. So that expectation, as long as somebody's available from the commission to answer questions or field them or hand them off over to me, I can try and respond to any questions as well. But I'd like to kind of find out from the board how you want to handle this on Wednesday, not Thursday. I don't know who told you.
That's that was my question. It said Thursday, but you said 31st. Which one was?
Sorry about that.
What time of
It is
day?
Wednesday. I've got a doctor's appointment.
It's 1 o'clock.
I could probably do that on Thursday.
Don't do it Thursday.
Don't go Thursday.
Actually, no,
I don't know how the board can get confused what day this is, just because I led with it.
I can't do it on Wednesday.
Is that one? How long does it? Because we have a special law board meeting at 5.
It won't last till 5. That much I can tell you. You're not obligated to stick around for the entire thing. There aren't that many proposals in front of them. So even beginning at 1 o'clock, I gotta believe it'll be done by 4 at the very latest.
And that could be done by Zoom.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's either Teams or Zoom. I can't remember which one they've set up.
It looks like Zoom.
Yes.
The link looks like Zoom.
I could do a Zoom because I've got something at 10:30. I could do a Zoom like 1 o'clock. I could do a Zoom.
Okay. All right, we'll run with that. There's consensus here. And Catherine, I can meet with you a little bit between now and then if you want. Just kind of go over it.
Okay.
Never hurts to review those things.
Nope.
Anticipating you might get some questions. I really think one of the things you'll probably hear, and this has been going on for a while. Some of the counties believe that it's a bad idea to address dark store with legislation because their theory is that encourages those who promote dark store to have their own legislation. Well, that's been a possibility from the get-go. And what I told Jay is I think the board sentiment, I know my sentiment is that doing nothing is worse than doing something with some risk. And so it is true that when you offer something, that bill could be churned out of the legislature and something exactly the opposite. But it's also true that it's also true they could easily at any time introduce legislation of their own. Those who believe dark store is the way to go, but they're never going to say that. They're never going to say that's the goal. But it's possible.
I think that's the key because I think I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, to be totally honest with you. Secondarily, though, with lots of changes both on the House and the Senate side in terms of leadership. That'll mean certain change on committees, particularly the House and Senate Judiciary that deals with this specific issue besides appropriations. So that's something to probably watch for too, and get a real idea about that. I guess you don't really know that till what, January. They don't make those.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's early on in the session. I don't know if it's before this. I don't, it can't be before the session
No.
begins. So I think it's pretty early
Yeah.
because they have to have those committees in place.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we just plow ahead with the statutory change. If it turns out that it's a bad idea, which occasionally near the end of the session, there have been reasons to kind of hold off and not get it out there when people were prepared to change it, according to the information we had from our contract lobbyists. So
The bill that we have currently, is that still above line, or did that die this year?
they'll have to be reintroduced.
Okay.
I think that's going to be something we need to do this next session, because even though they're above the line for purposes, or they're not subject to deadline, this still only lasts 2 years.
But yeah, with that court case, I would think the other side would be more encouraged to try to push something.
It could be. It's hard to read. We've had indications from some of the biggest supporters of this way that the Board of Tax Appeals has been heading, and I won't name them, Kansas Chamber of Commerce. That in theory, they've sent out signals that they actually support this legislation, which I find it difficult. And it would have been very easy if that was a real read on what they had to join with us and get it in front of the legislature.
So it's really interesting on that too, because the state chamber and the national chamber seem to favor it, but all your local chambers aren't. It's a real divide.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, and that's
Tell you
been
something.
So there's been several things. It seems like now that the state and the local ones are. The state looks for them. Seems to be looking at the big box people, the local ones are more interested otherwise.
It could be, at least in terms of that professional association. And so I don't know, that's a possibility that to me, if they supported it, they would have joined with us to get in front of the legislature.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that was a completely accurate representation of how it's viewed. And the key is, even though it's a mouthful, as you've seen in the draft proposed legislation, it clarifies the definition of fair market value by stating that fair market value doesn't include a hypothetical lease fee. And part of the reason we went with that is because I'm talking with our county appraiser, Anna Burson. She indicated that it's correct that every dark store, in her view, every dark store case, what we would call dark store, tries to use a vacant store as a comparable to the current value of an existing big box retailer. That somewhere in there is a hypothetical lease fee. Apparently, that has to be done in order to make at least this in the way it's not passed. It doesn't mean they call it that. They're not going to lead, say, hey, here's the hypothetical lease fee. That would be something that would have to be subject to ferreting out in front of the Board of Tax Appeals and possibly the district court, because it's the substance of what something is that matters. And if our theory has always been that anybody on cross-examination, any expert would have to acknowledge when they're led to cross-examination, this is your methodology, you did this, this, and this. That is a hypothetical lease fee, isn't it? They cannot say no, because that in itself would be a violation of some of the use tax standards, the national standards for appraisal. And that has not changed. I mean, if somebody steps forward and convinces me that there's something inaccurate about that, then I think then it's time to reconsider maybe the nature of the statutory change, but nobody's done that yet. I'm just saying that that's something that could come up. There is this kind of, there's always been this sentiment amongst some counties who have a difference of opinion about the best way to approach it, that the best way is to rely on things like that Johnson County decision. Well, that works if you're Johnson County. And however you've done your appraisals and however what you feel is the best possible way to address this. But it doesn't work for everybody else.
And the thing with the Johnson County case too, is it's not necessarily a new case. It goes dates all the way back to 2010 or 2012, correct?
I'm not sure how far back it goes, but it's definitely reaches back several years. And it's also the method that they use to value on mass appraisal basis their properties is not identical to what we've done. In terms of it's not exactly what the county has done traditionally. Doesn't mean they're wrong, but it doesn't make it a great test case for us to say, well, if Johnson County believes we ought to settle this through legislation, well, that's very dangerous to rely on the courts to eventually sort out what something like this is. If you can because the courts have to follow legislation. That's why this, in our view, still is a good solution. But we'll see.
Well, that Johnson County has basically the Supreme Court sent it back to the voter.
They sent back the voter for hearing. I believe that. I'll have to double check. That may have been resolved in the era. And there may have been actually a settlement on that. I'll double check.
That's what I was wondering when,
But
if it's being retried or whatever.
and maybe that's not true. Maybe they're just discussing that, or maybe the parties aren't maybe know what it is. But I had heard that was the case, so I want to confirm that and I'll bring it back to you and tell you.
I just wondering where it went from now.
Yeah, I'll double check. That'll be easy enough to find. Any questions about the project list or anything else? All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Clancy. Next commissioner, Julie Gibbs at 9:20.
You bet.
Exercise.
Yeah. All right, I did it last morning.
Garden still doing well, Greg?
Yeah. Kind of slowing down a little bit.
Is it?
Tomatoes and cucumbers, that's mainly got left in the next phase, cucumbers. Kind of slowing down a little bit. Pumpkins still going well.
Pumpkins are always fun.
Continuously fighting squash bugs.
I don't know what I did. I just timed it right this year to where I got on them early consistently enough that I'm not having a problem with them, which is highly unusual.
I've had some, but they're not doing too much damage. They've got a few of them, but
They can just
pumpkins, they'll go back when the vines land, they'll set new roots and start off.
Uh-huh.
I kind of cleared out a spot they're running across the yard. Cleared out
Yeah.
a spot to let
They
them
do,
go.
don't they go like crazy?
And I tried fall beans. I've never had good luck with fall beans, but I decided to try them. I told you rabbits ate the first batch. And somebody said, get one of those plastic owls.
That's what you said. Did you get one?
Yep. Kept away for a while, and then they decided, and I'd move it around a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Now, they've decided it was a fake and cleaned them off again.
I've got a solution for you and it's fun.
No, I've
pellet gun.
I do. I did that too.
Or I'm probably gonna hear from PETA. That's what my dad has trouble with. His wife likes him to feed the birds, and he has trouble with squirrels. So my dad has fun with his pellet. He lives in a small town, Kannapolis, Kansas, and gets squirrels with his pellet gun, getting in the bird feeder.
Yeah. I had a 2-pronged attack, owl and pistol. So. They're persistent.
Yeah, I've got some pretty good cats right now. I noticed cats, actually my dog caught a rabbit earlier in here, and then my cats must have caught one because I saw back where the cats are, there was the remains of a rabbit.
Well, that's what I've been considering getting a barn cat to get the mice.
I mean, you need,
I don't know. And there's several places. I've had several offers from people who's got a good place for them. They're like a garden shed.
I've got 4 young ones, and I just noticed I got another female that's pregnant. Didn't want that, but
Neighbor's got a cat. That thing's so bad it couldn't catch a mouse.
so mine are all outdoor cats. They're meant for that purpose. That's what they're there for.
He lets them out. They're not going to chase anything.
Yeah, if you're gonna live in the country, you darn well better have cats, because if you don't, then you like mice and snakes, because snakes will follow the mice.
So, yeah, the cats get the snakes, no, but they're just following mice.
Yeah, I had a cat that was quite a snake. That cat, it was a black and white cat. It wasn't necessarily my favorite cat. It was years ago when the kids were young. Name was Patches, black and white, long haired, spotty patched. And that cat would kill snakes. I'd never seen a domestic cat like that. And it was a friendly cat. And one day down by our culvert, which was a good thing, she killed a copperhead. Well, the copperhead got her too. A couple days later, she passed. But that was a snake killing this cat I'd never seen.
Yeah.
No, that's.
What I need is dogs. Certain dogs.
Yeah.
I have a Labrador. Ever since
One that will go out there and just sit and they see it moving.
Reese has always been that way, especially when she was young. She could smell their scent enough on top of the dirt, because they're pretty shallow. She'd dig them up and get them. Yeah. I had another commissioner one time that was complaining about, so I can rent you my Labrador. One of them got one here a while back, I know it said, and I wasn't sure if it was her because I still have her, and I got another young female. It's got a really good nose, but one of those two got one. Yeah, because I despise moles. Those mole traps, I've never had a lot of luck with them.
They almost do more harm than good if they keep them up at the surface.
I've got something to them. What are they? Something else. It doesn't leave a trail. It just leaves a mound.
Oh, gophers.
Yeah.
Gophers.
Gophers.
Yeah.
Last winter, there was one just going crazy in our front yard.
Never seen many of those around here. Back home, you used to see them more. Back home, we have a lot
And
of
it's gone, I don't know
pastures.
where all of a sudden he's never really catch him, but he's gone now, but had all this mounds all over the front yard.
Yeah, I hadn't seen many of those around here, but back home we have a lot. Central Kansas.
Should have under my wall, but burrowed underneath my retaining wall, and it's a hole about like so. It's like a den. I don't know what it
Not a
is.
small critter.
I don't think it's, I don't know what it is. The hole's about this big. I don't know, it could be, it could be a beaver.
Probably a skunk or a raccoon.
Maybe a raccoon, did they do that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we need to get it out of there, my wall's gonna collapse.
I think it's time, commissioners.
All right, anyway. Hold on, wait a minute.
We make a motion to recess as the Board of County Commission and reconvene as the Board of County Health.
I would second that.
Been moved second to recess the Board of County Commissioners, convene as the Board of Health, all in favor?
Aye.
Right, good morning.
Morning.
I'm here with a grant proposal that I'm hoping to get approval to go ahead and apply for. We found out about this a couple weeks ago, and of course it's due at the end of this week. It's due on the 2nd. It is a zero suicide grant. It's actually money that came from SAMHSA. That's Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Association, a national program. So it was funding that came from the federal level down to the state level, and now they're distributing it to 2 communities. So there's only 2 awards that will be awarded at a max of $50,000 each. So I went ahead and applied for the max. It's only a year-long program, so it's only lasting until the end of August of this next year, 2023. We do have the opportunity to reapply for an additional year at $35,000. So my thought was to hire someone part-time to be able to work on this effort. It would really be heavily educating. So a lot of suicide prevention education. They would have to go through a series of trainings, including a Zero Suicide Academy in the spring, according to this grant proposal. And then they would be able to do some education out in the community. I see them also getting affiliated with some of our existing coalitions and committees, including the Flint Hills Wellness Coalition, the community care team, to help them with efforts that are already being done in the community. I did go ahead and reach out to Robin Cole at Pawnee to make sure that we weren't duplicating efforts or stepping on toes, and they assured us that we weren't, and they fully supported this effort. I went ahead and reached out to Lori Bishop, also at the Flint Hills Volunteer Center. They had some funding earlier to be able to do some work around suicide prevention called the Yellow Ribbon Project. So I, again, wanted to make sure that we weren't duplicating efforts, and she assured me we weren't, and that they were still doing some of their podcasts with suicide prevention. So we will likely be partnering with them to help them do some of their work that they're doing. So I did gain some support from her as well. And I went ahead and reached out to Deb Ness with the Flint Hills Wellness Coalition, as this person would probably be working with them along with the community care team to gain support from Deb as well. So yeah, this is only until the end of August. I went ahead and asked for the full ask to cover the salary and benefits of a part-time individual, and also some money for some supplies and materials to help with education in the community.
So you said this is only a 2-year grant potentially at the most?
Yeah, at the most. Mm-hmm. So there is a spot in the grant proposal to kind of get my plan as far as sustainability. So I did mention that we would reach out to the Greater Community Foundation to see if they could help us with efforts moving forward. And we would definitely evaluate this program to make sure that we're hitting our target and making some strides here in the community. So hopefully that will help with that.
So here's a hypothetical question. What if we do? And the grant's not available?
If we do.
If we hit all those targets and we're doing what we need to do, and we don't get that second part of the grant, and basically it's 2 years and it's done.
Yeah, we'll have to be creative at that point and look for. That's what I can do these next 2 years is help look for additional funding to support this. Yeah.
Seems fine. Just 2 years and it's done for something like this just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
And there may be more money available in the future from this organization.
Possibly. Yeah, I know when talking with Robin and her team, she said that they've been offered funding from Zero Suicide in the past. So I'm hoping that that continues to happen the next few years.
So when you hire a part-time person, would you look also for that person maybe someone who's already working in the field, like on another professional, as opposed to hiring a fresh person for that.
Yeah,
So,
possibly with some experience already. We're taking this from the existing, well, it had been existing with the RADX program, the community health worker. A lot of that same language in that job description I would use for this individual. But yeah, hopefully somebody with a little bit of experience already.
I think this is a good idea. We do have a lot of issues with suicide too. So I would make a motion that we approve you applying for this grant.
I'll second, but I've got a follow-up question there. Is it centered around anything in particular? I mean,
Yeah, it's the whole concept of zero suicide is centered around there's 7 pillars that's included in that RFP.
okay.
So as long as we follow those, as long as we go through the training, the academy, it's a nationally known program that's centered around those 7 pillars. I think it's within like the first few pages. Yeah,
Yeah.
7 components. The zero suicide model.
Missed that the first time. Okay. That's all I got. I'm sorry. I went ahead and seconded it tonight.
Okay. You been moved and seconded to approve application for the funding for zero suicide. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Mhm.
Next, commissioners, we do not have anything for the press conference. Then we have Vivian Uccello, PIO update at 9:45. Well, I was trying to save the current day's minutes. I'm getting a concurrency violation. The update command affected 0, but the expected 1. So error saving minutes.
I guess I'll wait. I'll go ahead and make a motion. We recess this board.
I think that would say.
Excuse me, reconvene as a board.
Minutes.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to recess of the Board of Health and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, today's. Yeah, because it's not highlighting red, anything is not correct.
Greg, Chair, if you're going to have someone pre-scheduled for press conference, why it needs to be on.
Yeah, I've got.
I don't get any. I don't set the schedule.
They have a standard format on this.
Yeah, but if nobody's gonna be here,
Take it out, I guess, but then you have to reinsert it the next time when you go to.
well, yeah, you can do that, but it just seems kind of.
And that way, if anybody happens to be looking at the agenda, they look at that press conference time, I know that.
Julie.
Or at least leave it on there, at least schedule the next thing 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes instead of 15, that's such a waste.
I've tried to save multiple times.
Most of
Chair, you could.
most of the department heads and our outside agencies usually schedule the same time, on the same day.
Yeah, so
Some of them do, yeah, but if there's nothing scheduled.
Yeah, just don't shut it down every come over.
said each person, each.
Yeah,
department
usually
at a
it
certain
works.
time.
Yeah.
Certain time, the first, second, or third.
We got just, most of our meetings are just updates here for the next couple. Get to hop back into budgetary stuff.
Get through.
Pretty quick.
Rich,
Sir,
that's another good question. You know, if there's nothing to the press conference, why do we leave 15 minutes for it?
sometimes we get here on Monday morning and someone calls up and say, hey, I need to get on the press conference. We can take it off, but then if someone has that, then we don't
Well,
have
or
the
even,
time.
or even just, I mean, if there's nothing scheduled, but the next 5 minutes afterwards, I mean, we left 15 minutes.
Yeah, we can if you want, just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and if there's
that's why
nothing-
we do it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's what I was saying. Since she was saying take it off, well, leave 5 minutes, just in the last.
That's why we always
Yeah.
leave some time.
The last minute thing, but
And then like today, instead of, because sometimes and today's a short day, but she leaves time for a break and then that's
Yeah.
your break as opposed to,
Short
so.
break, we always roll.
yeah.
You know, 5 minutes. Right, but yeah, just.
Sounds good. That is easy enough to change.
Most everybody's scheduled at the same time on the same date, right?
For,
Just updates.
Uh-huh.
In the department or outside.
yep, there's a regular schedule for everyone, staff members and a lot of the outside agencies as well. Uh-huh.
Particularly those that do monthly updates.
Yeah. Correct, correct.
Phone call.
A couple of laps around the.
Yeah.
Good time for exercise.
Well, I can do. I did something this morning. Okay, yeah, I will. Yeah.
It was nice out this morning.
I know, that's what I thought. That's what I told Darnell when I got in. I said, boy, it's not even,
It's
it's yucky out this morning.
70 plus in the morning, you know, it's not gonna be good.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's a chance for some severe weather tonight, I guess. So.
Oh, there is?
Mhm. Very weak cold fronts moving through this afternoon.
Might sure take some rain. Another small chance on Friday, maybe it holds.
Yeah.
Not an 80 in the forecast. It's depressing.
Usually what happens, you get that one storm front that comes in here and it knocks the temperature down and then it just stays. I hope it's not like last fall, we don't get any rain or anything at all, you know?
Agreed. Rain for a wet October. I've seen some really wet Octobers before.
So what happened in 18 doesn't happen this year for Labor Day either.
Yeah, true.
I heard the weather on the way in and thought, oh, okay. Yeah. No, not for this one. It's all text for the first half. Oh. Okay, good morning, commissioners. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. The first half of my presentation is about proposed changes to the county's social media policy. This is a public facing policy that outlines what kinds of comments that we could or would I'm just tripping all over my words today. Sometimes that happens. But just outlines the situations in which we could delete somebody's public comments on one of our pages And we have quite a few. We have accounts for EMS and Raleigh County and the Health Department and the Fire Department and emergency management. So we kind of have a lot of public presence in those arenas. And there are some situations with, obscene material or copyrighted material, we would absolutely be protected if we made the choice to delete those comments from our page. And I would recommend that we do so. But we also have an obligation to protect everyone's First Amendment rights. And since we are government agencies, all of those pages that we have on social media represent government communication. People have the right to come on and criticize us. And our existing policy is just about a year old. And in it had some language that was a little vague. So I worked with Clancy to just tighten that up and make sure we were specific about what kinds of comments we would be within our rights to remove. And that's limited to the legal definitions, pornography, plagiarism of copyrighted material, defamation such as libel or slander, threats, advertisements, or commercial messages, and any information promoting illegal discrimination or the commission of a crime. So that's pretty black and white. We'll be able to reference this document and compare it to something that somebody posted and say, yes, this does qualify. The other part of that is that we don't want staff making those decisions on their own. We have several people who contribute to our social media pages. If they saw something they thought was suspicious or should be removed, they would contact me and I would work with Clancy to make that determination, just to make sure we're not exposing the county to any legal liability or potential action. And I wrote a lot and I didn't say a ton. So if you have any questions or if you'd like me to go over a little bit more of the discussion area, just kind of the fact that social media law is evolving very quickly. And I anticipate this certainly not being the last time that we update the policy, we have this discussion, we make sure we're using this tool in the best way for the organization and for the public. And also recognizing that we have some different circumstances than a private organization. A private company could delete anything that they wanted. We want to make sure that we're protecting the public's right to criticize the government. That's a pretty central tenet to our democracy. So outlining those rules specifically for us, I thought was necessary. I don't know that we'll ever use it, but we have to have something in place in case, a situation got out of hand.
Well, when you just got a informational question, if you get like criticism of the county, do you then contact the person who's been criticized or the agency and talk to them about it, or does it just sit there?
The only situation like that we've had since I started was a comment about a specific volunteer firefighter during an awards presentation. We had pictures posted of awards that had been given and somebody said something negative about one of the firefighters, and they saw it and it was unfortunate. But people are allowed to be rude on social media if they choose.
Okay, it's about 50 to 70% of it, yeah.
More and more all the time, unfortunately.
Well, personally, I don't monitor that. So if somebody would criticize something that I said or did, that you would talk to me about that. And
I certainly would. Some of it wouldn't, and these are all hypothetical situations, but I wouldn't want to. Yeah, if it was something meaningful, meaningful content that had specifics about disagreement with something that you'd said, or if it was a credible threat, we would work with law enforcement. Okay. And we would certainly let you know.
Okay. So you do monitor, but not 24/7.
No, but I check in several times a day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
I try not to look when I'm at home, just because, it sucks the life out of you.
Yeah.
But any other questions or suggestions?
I'd like to say that I'm sure the law is evolving about what, every time a new case comes through, probably it changes a little bit because it's all new stuff. Well,
Mhm.
It is, they're still figuring out the parameters for all of that, so I'll keep an eye on it, and my suggestions here were based on information I got at a conference from somebody who did a presentation about First Amendment rights and how they relate to social media and what government agencies should do to make sure that they're in line with best practices. And then I did a little more research, and thankfully Clancy was able to make time to review. I'm gonna knock on wood, he didn't have any suggested changes. I need to tell the public that I did. He usually takes the red pen out, and I feel like this is probably the highlight of my career.
That is highly unusual.
Yeah.
Everyone in the county would tell you that.
To vouch for it, but it happens. And this doesn't usually happen, but I don't have any suggestions. And I
I'm
thought he was
speechless.
thanking
You've never, it's like a unicorn.
yeah.
It's like
Never seen one
leprechaun
before.
at the end of a rainbow.
Heard of it, but never sold it.
Heard of it. Knew it was possible. Didn't think I'd ever see it.
I want to see Clancy coming through that door any minute.
Probably he's not here, then his head won't get big.
Now it's my ego that's big now. It's a crap.
Now department heads will run everything through.
I know. Now I don't think it'll ever happen again. It was a fluke.
It's so hard to know in this one.
I like it because it's a lot shorter and clearer than the
It
previous.
is.
Is what I really like
It's very
about
much
it.
so clear. I mean,
It's pretty black and white. Is what I like about it. Short.
is that laid out someplace on
This
the
is,
website? Or is
Yes.
that just internal?
it's on the website, and each of our social media channels links to it. So we have, like, in our About Us section of every page that link to our social media policy, and it takes them to just this statement on the Riley County website.
Do those same modifications apply to comments made on live stream?
Yes, it would. YouTube would also qualify as a social media network.
For us, it's these boundaries are a little bit different still, but
But I think that's the concept. So some of the cases that the presenter cited in this seminar that I attended were about people back during the Vietnam era protesting the war and using profanity, like coming into City Hall with profanity on their shirts, voicing their opinion about the government and the war. And the case decision that was protected speech in those instances because they were expressing a political viewpoint about their government and their government's action, and they were allowed to do that. So that kind of translates into social media as it relates to government sponsored, government owned pages that people can express their opinion about the government and what the government is doing in whatever way they see fit. And just because we don't like it, or because we find it, unless it meets these legal definitions of, I keep, when I say libel or slander
you're just
or
combining
a
the two.
threat, it's a shortcut, it's a new word,
It's a Monday.
it's a Monday. But so unless it meets those definitions for a violation, then we would be infringing on someone's rights to communicate about their government if we removed it just because we didn't like it.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the updated social media policy for Riley County.
I would second that.
And move and second to adopt the updated social media policy. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Can I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So just my monthly staff report, and I do have visuals for this one, so I might turn that on. Ooh.
The top, this next one too, yeah. Thank you.
All right, so this has been a much different month than July was. I've had a little bit of time to plan and catch up, but I shouldn't say that either, because then it'll evaporate. Primary election, this is my first time participating on this side of the fence in an election, and it was a great honor, and it was wonderful to see how many people really come together for this Herculean effort to pull off the election. That's Kevin from IT going to open a polling place kind of pre-dawn. He took a picture for me when he got there.
Mr. Royals hat.
At least it wasn't the other color he usually wears.
So, and folks worked till 10:30 that night without complaint to wrap up operations. It was really all hands on deck, and I had the honor of posting election results and kind of printing them out and running them upstairs to the AP reporters. I felt very important. And then we also had something, this is the first year the clerk's office was required to mail those revenue neutral rate notices. So kind of during all the election undertaking, they pulled that together as well. And since this was a new process, we felt like there was a lot of potential to cause confusion for the public. So Richard, Lori, and Joe were determined to prepare them and kind of share announcements about this before they received the notices in their mailboxes. So Rich made announcements during the commission meetings. We posted them on the website and social media, sent a news release, which, thank you, was picked up by all of the local news organizations. And we did not get nearly as many phone calls as we were anticipating. Lori had called the Pot County office because they sent theirs out a little bit earlier than this line. We were just inundated with phone calls. People didn't understand what this was. So Lori said that never happened. She got maybe 10 phone calls. It was something really low. And hopefully it wasn't just because people didn't care enough to pay attention, but they had a little bit of an awareness of what was going on.
I think a lot of it is the media, but then also we put in that little flyer and we were in the press conference, and yes, I contend that little flyer explaining really what it was helped a lot, because we were prepared for the worst. And what I've come to the summation of, the conclusion of on this process is the legislature had to spend $30,000 or more to let people know the change in their appraised value again. That is the number one concern and call that we got throughout. Mm-hmm. Why did my appraisal go up so much? Well, we notified you of that in March, remember? And so that was the number one question and concern we had, was about the appraised value increase.
Mm-hmm. But it went better than I thought it was going to.
Agreed.
In terms of the number of questions and angry phone calls. So that was at least something. Then I was invited to observe the Riley County Fire Department's training day. A local, I'm not going to get the company right, but they were going to demo this house. And so they allowed the fire department to come in and do training on the house and do some practical applications. And I was able to go and get some pictures in a safe and controlled environment, which is my favorite way to get pictures. And they had a good turnout, and hopefully we'll be able to use these, some of the pictures for recruiting events and stock photos for when they respond to incidents. But it was kind of neat to see everybody get together, and it was over 100 that day when they were out in all those layers, and nobody had an unkind word to say. They were all out there of their own free will. Like it was great. It was a heartwarming thing that. And the more I learn about all the men and women who volunteer their time for the fire department, the more proud I am of our county. The other big thing, transfer station brush pile burn. They had over 6,000 tons of limbs and brush out there, and that makes one heck of a bonfire. So I put out some information because there was a chance, it takes about a week to get the whole thing burned, and there could be smoke, and I put out information just so residents would know. But the media said, you know what, that's going to make a pretty cool visual. So we had a couple reporters come out, and Devin was kind enough to do, or excuse me, Evan. I always want to call him Devin because I have a friend named Devin. But Evan was kind enough to come out early morning and do some on-camera interviews. He did a great job. And the burn went well. Thankfully, it rained the day that they wanted to burn, and there wasn't a lot of smoke, and there were no incidents, again, knock on wood. But it was really neat. And then there's an after picture. That's the second day of it. But I kind of want to make sure I'm out there next time they do it, because it's just neat. Bring some marshmallows.
You couldn't get close enough.
Well,
Yeah.
It'd be a long marshmallow stick.
There's a lot of heat coming off there. But they typically don't burn this time of year, but they had the extra storm debris from the June storms, and they had to do it a little bit early. It was really fortunate the weather cooperated. We also, this was recently, the Register of Deeds enrolled for the property fraud alert system. We put out information, and I called Amy this morning. They have 131 people signed up so far, which is good. A little bit of community outreach. Staff find really creative ways to start meaningful conversations with the public through in-person activities. And those kinds of, like, that's how you really create relationships with the community. So this is Pauline and Skylar from the health department. They brought their dogs and had a booth at Pet Palooza, talking about insect bite prevention and disease prevention. They handed out goodie bags as part of their Bugapalooza. They've been at the farmers market too. And the goodie bags had like tick keys, those little plastic things that help you kind of remove the tick once it bites, and tick cards and sunscreen and bug bugs like bracelets. I used to get a repellent bracelet, so that was a great thing. And then the Raleigh County Fire District had a dunk tank at Leonardville's Hullabaloo. I still can't talk today. And 2 members of the media participated. Thank you, Becky. It was a hot day, so I hope it was a little bit fun to get dunked. Did you really? Oh, mercy.
how many times?
20 times I got dunked in an hour.
Oh, goodness.
Was the water really cold?
The water was cold the first time, but then after that, it was just like kind of when you enter a swimming pool, like it's cold at first, and then
You're okay. News releases, we had 9 in August so far. And again, excellent support for local media. We had a recent error in an online story that Catherine Hensler pointed out. When I contacted, it was just an honest mistake, some confusion. When I contacted the reporter, she had it fixed within 5 minutes. So really good relationship, and we appreciate all your support. Social media, there was minor growth in audience numbers, and kind of on the side, I did the +2, +9, +18. And I'm doing better at balancing my workload between social media and other activities and workload. And now a few other people are joining the effort to create content for social media. Just recognize that I can't be everywhere at once, and that I have a very limited view of kind of the daily duties and the personalities of each department. So I still review content. I'm free to provide any direction. I work with them to kind of develop some methods, but they're able to really express the real character of who they are, who their department is, and they get the behind the scenes photos. And I think in this way, social media can be a good tool for relationship building and awareness. And Catherine Hensler has some great ideas for the Historical Museum. On Waffle Day, they posted some old recipe books that they had in the collection with waffle recipes that I thought was really cool. And as our community is kind of poised to experience this huge growth and change, I talked to Catherine about, I feel like it's going to be really important to link people to the past. We have a lot of pride in our community and a lot of deep roots, and sharing those stories as we see the community change, I think is just going to be vitally important. She's on board, and they are discussing ideas and themes, and I think they're doing a great job. I'm going to go out this fall and take some new pictures of their facilities when the leaves change. And then EMS has started a social media team. They had one in the past, but also lets them share their unique perspectives and continue kind of empowering them to use social media tools. Websites staying about the same. We've got 25 to 30,000 unique users each month. July's top search terms. I feel like this is our thing now. We'll talk about the top 3. So we had 2 related to voting, just different spellings of sample ballots, an indication to me that I need to make that information a little easier to find. And then divorce, beat out marriage again last this month. So, and it's a clear indication to me that our online information about marriage licenses and how to file for divorce needs to be a little bit easier to find, but I haven't figured out how to solve that problem just yet. So, but I'm going to work on it. All right, thank you. Do you have any questions, feedback from me? Doing okay? You're still awake? Thank
Yeah.
you.
I like the last picture of the little boy with the
Oh,
fire
yeah.
hose. Yeah,
That was from the open house.
that was the
in
house that
Leonardville.
was being demolished.
Yeah, they have
So, no, bro.
oh no, the Leonardville Hullabaloo, when they had station tours and truck tours, and they had activities like this for kids. So the little flames in the window, if you hit it with the hose, the flame knocks
Selfie,
down.
yeah.
Mhm.
We've had that around for a while.
That's neat. Let me get
And
this.
commissioners, you know, Vivian's position is somewhat new to the county and there was some hesitancy early on in this position, but just all the stuff that she's doing makes a lot of us think, how the heck did we ever do without it before? And of course, Vivian does a great job at it and she had great previous experience, but she's helping the public be more aware of things that we're doing so much more than the rest of the department heads had time to do before because they were doing their day-to-day
Yeah, we
operations.
don't need
So
that.
I know no one likes to spend additional tax dollars, but it was money well spent in a community our size. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you. I'm so glad it's helpful. Enjoy your days.
Thank you.
Next commissioner is Craig Cox, 10:15. Barry, how's recovery going?
Good.
Good,
I'll be losing this and this another week or two
good, good.
in there. So thank you. So smooth for you.
Smooth as can be.
Craig, how you doing?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, all the green ones. He wants it. Kimble, I see it. The 1st of September. Yeah, it's gonna be Thursday.
See?
Out there on the highway saying Kimball opens September 1st.
Oh, really?
Didn't
see that.
Oh, Kimball or you?
I just said there's a sign out there.
By North Manhattan, you've got both sides filled in. I just don't know how far up on each.
Because you can't, for me, I can't see from any of the other intersections, but the whole thing, you see, but they're saying it's just good.
The goal was they just have it one lane, that one lane both ways.
And then they will us.
It'd be pretty messy this weekend. I bet.
I don't think it's still have they were gonna make it go straight.
Come in that direction.
See how they did.
I would just try to stay away from that area.
Yeah.
Went out west for Anderson yesterday and out Anderson.
That was always nice about Marlette is, you know, if you wanted to avoid getting there's traffic and get on the west side of town, you could take it all
down to.
It's free, but it's just you're gonna have to go all the way up to Stepchild to cut over, I guess.
Yeah, they've been, I've seen a lot of like right there too, yeah.
And
this one pieces and I put this in a certain presentation order and then find the foot.
It's easier to see, yeah,
The big
okay.
long packet on the screen. So
Thank you, Craig. Hey, Christian, see you like
good afternoon, guys.
I guess I'm not newsworthy this morning.
At least you didn't clear the whole room, Craig.
We still got more than this.
They can get the sound bites later if they need them.
They absolutely can.
Good morning, commissioners. What I have before you this morning is a variance request from Michael and Stephanie Sawinski, who live at 4916 Lakeland Road in Lakeland Addition. This matter was presented to Variance Hearing Officer Tom Tall on August 15th. At that time, after hearing testimony from Sawinski's and county staff and reviewing the documentation, there were 5 variances being requested here to put a septic system in. Mr. Tall granted all 5 variances. I did ask Mr. Tall to be here this morning because he if you have any questions of him, I have some kind of a short presentation here with some pictures. I always think pictures are worth 1,000 words. Well, I will tell you too that as Mr. Tall determined that after looking at the pictures, he actually went out and physically viewed the location. And I thought maybe some of his insights of being out there actually seeing the actual location might be helpful for your determination this morning. On the first page of that packet I gave you is just a brief review of the facts. The Swinskys bought this property in August of 2021, began to remodel it. When they bought it, the prior owner said that they needed to put a new septic tank in. In the process of remodeling, they called a certified contractor to come out to deal with the new septic tank. And that contractor advised them that there was no lateral field. All there was a septic tank. And so that's where the planning development and Perry Piper got involved. Perry went out and looked at the location. Well, let me just back up. The next page in your packet just shows a picture of the house when the Swinskys bought it, and the picture behind the page after that will show you some of the remodeling they have done. On that remodeled picture, if you look to the left-hand side, you'll see a propane tank there. But if you can kind of tell, the ground kind of falls off next to the left side of that house. That's where the old privy was, and that's where the new privy will be, in the same location that it was. Perry went out and found a location that for a lateral field. If you turn to the next page, that location was complicated by the neighbors to the west of the Swinskys, Mr. and Mrs. Schooley. It's a property outside of Lakeland Addition, actually have a travel easement that go across, that goes from their east border to the east property boundary to Lakeland Road there. And if you flip one more page, the red triangle is the area that Perry thought a lateral field could be put in, but as you can tell, it's right in the middle of that travel way. You can kind of see the beaten path there. Perry and I had many discussions and negotiations with Mr. and Mrs. Schooley to try to resolve this situation, to put in a lateral field. And the bottom line was the Schooleys weren't willing to either give up their easement. We even pitched a new location for it, and they weren't willing to move it either. So with not being able to deal with that easement, all that was left, and the next page shows that, but kind of a smaller rectangle, is to put a privy in, and that location is where that photo showed it was. This picture depicts 3 of the 5 easements that are needed. Okay, one is the privy itself. By the sanitary code, if you're going to allow someone to have a privy, which is just a holding tank, it's a variance to the septic code and sanitary code, and so we have to give a variance for the privy itself. A septic system is supposed to be 50 feet from a boundary line. Well, this, as you can tell, this privy is going to be in the right of way of Lakeland Road. So it's not 50 foot from, it's not on the Swinsky property, and that's 2 variances that are going to be needed. It crosses a property line, and it's also in a right of way. So we need 2 variances from that 50-foot requirement to be away from a property line to have that location. If you flip to the next page, I have an aerial. I have a plat map. In yellow, I've highlighted the 2 parcels that the Swinskys own, and I have some numbers there. Number 1 is where the Schoolies live, and then right across the road, there's a McCulley property. That's number 2, and then to the east, there's an adjoining property, which is number 3. Part of the sanitary code says that a privy has to be 300 feet from any neighboring property. And so we just measured from the privy location to those 3 separate homes. And I gave you the measurements there. Locations 1 and 2 are somewhat close. They're over 200 feet, but the property right across the road, location 2, is only 178 feet. So to put that privy where it needs to be, we'll need to have a variance from the 300-foot requirement from a neighboring property. And then behind the last, well, the second to the last page there, the last aerial shows that the house itself is in the Lakeland Road right-of-way. I will tell the commissioners that I contacted the appraiser's office to find out when the Sawinskis purchased the property. That was in August of 2021. They estimate that this house was built back in 1970. So it's been in the right-of-way for a long, long time. And just, I'm going to have Mr. Tall just give you some comments about the physical situation out there. But the 5 variances that we need, and that's the last page of my presentation to you, is, like I said before, we need a variance just to have the privy. We need 2 variances from the 50-foot requirement from a property line, because 1, it's not on their property, and 2, because it's in the road right away. And then the 4th variance is that the privy will not be 300 feet from any of the adjoining neighbors. And the 5th one is this is a subdivision. This right of way was dedicated to the county, so the county owns that right of way. Since we're the owner of the right of way, within the land development regulations, we have to give a waiver. The county has to give a waiver to allow the house, part of the house, to be in that road right of way. So those are the 5 variances that we're considering this morning. And I just wanted Mr. Tall to give some, just kind of give a description of what he saw when he went out there. And maybe his thought process into granting these variances in the first place.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Tom Tall, and I had the opportunity to serve on the Raleigh County Planning Board for over 20 years. Seen a lot of requests for the variances and things throughout the years. I think the main thing to focus on is all the lakeland properties around the lake are a mess. They were all done in, I think, maybe 1964, early 70s. All those properties would not be approved today with the zoning and planning that we have. So when Craig asked me to act as a hearing officer on this particular case, read through the packet like you all have, and my first thoughts were, this ain't gonna fly. We don't want to privy out in the right of way. The neighbors being less than 300 feet would be a big issue if I was a neighbor and only had 175. And you know, maybe you all don't, but I know in my experience, you kind of get a mental picture before you go into an issue, and then you listen to comments and maybe change your mind. But I know after reading the thing, I thought, no, I'm not going to be very favorable with this. And so I went to Craig's and asked him when the property had been purchased to find out what was going on. And so I thought, well, yeah, I'm just going to drive out there. And so I don't know if you all as the commissioners get to drive out and see a lot of those sites yourself. I mentioned that Craig there, every one of you should go. And he said, well, with the open meetings law, it's hard to get everybody out there at one time. But yeah, after going out there, oh, it's a mess. And I think the county should be happy that we got residents that want to pay taxes on a lot of those properties out there, because they don't get very much services. And it was hard for me just to find the location with the way the roads willy-nilly around, and they really weren't a road. They were more like a cow path in my world. I don't know how I visit with Mr. Spinsky. I don't know how in the world if you meet somebody, how there's a room out there on those roads that get one past another.
I drove a pickup truck and it was a challenge for me just to get turned around. But anyhow, get out there to the site. It's a dead end road, hill slope off on either side. The neighbors being the short distance, in my opinion, going out there, you couldn't even see the neighbors and there was no contact. It's going to be confined in a holding tank. There shouldn't be any odor and anything. My main concern acting as hearing officer that evening was who was going to be responsible to oversee this maintenance of this holding tank, who was going to monitor it to make sure it got emptied at an appropriate time, those type of issues. And we had some discussion, and Craig and Perry and Spinsky's all came out, and we had a little document lined on outlining when it was going to be pumped and who was going to pay for it and how it was all going to be maintained. And I felt comfortable with those guidelines in place that it'd be kind of the best thing for the situation. It was surprising to me to know that the house was built in the 70s, and up until they purchased the property, there hadn't even been a lateral field there. And the septic tank had been broken. So how long had it been without review? We don't know. Like I know Perry, it hadn't been pumped and it was cracked and broke. So obviously there was effluent going somewhere. It wasn't going in a lateral field in a holding tank. But anyhow, just thought I'd like to share with you, like I say, it's pretty remote out in there. And I think a lot of the code can be adjusted because of the situation. And it's not necessarily just his side out there. Like I say, all those lake properties out there, every time a septic goes bad, there's no room to put a lateral field. Luckily, a lot of them are able to buy an adjacent lot that's been vacant for the years, and that allows them to get enough space to put in a lateral field. And so, but yeah, if you had any questions or anything, I'd be glad to ask them. But I think once you go out and see the site, it becomes pretty clear that there are not very many options. Yeah.
I'm kind of new to this. On a privy, it's a holding tank. And so a pumping company will come out and pump out the effluent. And how do they get out there if these roads are so tough to travel on? Because that's got to be a big pumping ton.
Good point, because I asked the same thing.
Yeah.
I asked the same thing. I said, I had trouble getting out there with my pickup truck, and let alone a big tanker truck to kind of come and pump it. But maybe Mr. Spinsky can answer that, or Perry can answer that. But they get out there and they do it. Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy task. And based on the information that we have, until we have some records on, I think it's recommended to do it every 3 weeks. So that's quite a few trips out there.
And what about the winter time? How do they get out there every 3 weeks in the winter?
Well, like I say, I think Perry maybe can answer those things, but those are questions that I asked. The same thing was accessibility to a pumping company, and also the expense that's involved. If you tank that tank every 3 weeks, that's a pretty big expense. And are you willing to accept that? And so if you don't mind and answer your question, Perry seemed to think he could answer those better than I could. They're good questions. Guy had the same thing. I had the same thing.
All right.
Good morning, Commissioners. So to answer your question, they can get the trucks in there. They had it in there and pumped it with the prior owner. And then that's when the tank was discovered that there was no lateral field. So at that point, it never got replaced because the previous owner didn't want to do anything else with it at that time. So it's challenging for them to get a truck in there and back it in there, but it can be done. It has been done. It's a little tricky. And then in the wintertime, it's gravel road. So you just want to make sure it's not snow packed and icy. I wouldn't want to be driving a big pump truck down there in those conditions. So they'll just have to go weather permitting.
What about if they can't get to it every 3 weeks, where does the effluent go? Just on the ground and into the groundwater?
And it becomes a problem with, if it's discharging to the surface of the ground, that's a violation of the sanitary code.
How much staff time does it take for your department to go out and check on this to make sure there's no violations?
Probably about a 20-minute drive there. I'd say 20-minute drive back, something like that, maybe.
And let me just interject to that. I think in the packet, it was a car, there was a proposed contract that was going to be signed by the parties. And in that, Perry had a lot to do with how we were going to supervise that, and had staff time in mind. And one way that's going to, the whole system is going to be monitored is that they do have rural water out there. And so Perry is going to periodically check the water usage on that property. And if it's high, then there's a problem, he needs to go out. If it's within parameters, it's okay. So we can monitor it kind of from the office somewhat, and that will save him just going out to do an inspection with no known information ahead of time. So that is part of the contract.
Any other questions for me?
I learned a different definition of privet when I first saw it there, being privet, I went, huh? But
I'll have to say, it's interesting you say that, Commissioner McKinley, because Perry always called it a privy. And so I actually got my old Webster's out, and there are definitions of privy, but and one of them is a holding tank for wastewater. Yeah, I had the same experience.
Definition I've always heard.
Well, back in the 14th century, the privy was a location for the kings to meet people. So
That still kind of makes sense.
yeah. We'll go to-
If you have no more questions of staff, I mean, in the car, I gave you two motions. One would be a kind of a longer motion to approve all 5 variances, or the other one would be to deny the variances and then state the facts on which the denial was based. And so whenever it's the proper time to get to that, those one of the two motions you need to make this morning. And again, we all stand here this morning to answer any questions that you have.
Well, as he said, there's a lot of places out there around the lake that were developed with no restriction, no oversight, it seems. And you can't just say, oh, we're going to close all the places. Yeah, you have to make adjustments to make it work.
Mr. Sawinski's in the back. You want to come up and say a few words?
Anyone has any questions?
You need to be in front of the microphone.
Morning. I feel they kind of hit everything, but when we purchased the property, I saw he showed you photos of the cabin itself. It was pretty run down. We have taken this and made it into a really nice, respectable piece of property. And yeah, we have just a few more to go, and then it's just interior work. I've got plumbers waiting just so that we do have a place for the wastewater. It's my hopes that my wife and Mrs. Schooley, they're going to have a meeting here soon that we can work out for future lateral lines. Because me and Mr. Schooley didn't meet very well. So we can take care of it. I guess I don't really have a whole lot more. The road, I know that we had talked about that. We've had concrete trucks out there. I've taken trucks and trailers with equipment because we widened the road to make the easement for Schoolies to move their road so that we could put our lateral field in. So I know you can get big equipment, because I've done it myself.
Now, is this a full-time residence, or will it be?
So my aunt is moving from Seattle, and she's mid-60s. She's kind of like my kids' grandma. So she's going to be living there. So we live up by Leonardville. So. But she'll be with us at the house, and then it'll be her main residence.
I have one of, not of you. I was wondering if the neighbors are objecting to this.
I'll let Perry answer that question. He's had more contact with the neighbors than I have. You mean with the actual privy itself?
Yeah, with this, you know, the setbacks and all this, have they been notified and?
Well, we don't notify the neighbors unless they're needing a waiver, like Craig was mentioning earlier. Sanitary code requires 50 foot from a property boundary, and that can be waived down to 10 foot. That's the state minimum requirement, provided the neighbors are willing to sign off on a waiver. In this situation, there is not an issue with any neighbors because it's a county-owned road. So in a situation like this, where it's a county-owned road, what we do is we take half the road right away. So if it's an 80-foot road right away, we'll take 40 foot plus add 10 foot to that and go off the center line is how I measure setbacks off of road right of ways. But in this situation, there's no, where the holding tank's going to be, there's no neighbor right there. The only neighbors that I know of that are aware of the situation is the schoolies to the west, since they've been in discussions and stuff with us on it.
Everybody that's close to me does, because I've been talking to everybody around.
Okay.
Macaulay actually owns the property. He lives in Texas now, and he hasn't done anything with it for over 20 years. He has the just shy of 2 acres surrounding me.
And this agreement will run with the property if it's sold. This agreement would run with the property if it were
I mean,
sold.
the variances go with the property and then the contract, once it's signed, we're gonna file with the Register of Deeds. We saw that in the front page, there was a legal description. So with that legal description in the contract, then it can be, you know, tracked with that property. So that responsibility of taking care of that privy will run with the property also.
Yeah, I think we covered everything, you know.
It's either this or it's inhabitable. I mean, when you get to break it down, it's black and white.
And like I say, there's
I think,
a number of properties out
Yeah.
there that,
I think the hearing officer summed it up well. It's a mess out there.
yeah.
When to think that some of that's on us too. So we have to be a little bit flexible and open minded.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't come back 50 years after the fact and
Yeah.
say no.
No.
If they can work something out.
It seems a
They've
reasonable,
been working on it.
maybe not perfect, but a reasonable approach, just given the circumstances. So I guess if there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt the findings of the hearing officer and grant the 5 variances requested on 4916 Lakeland Road.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the findings of the hearing officer and grant the 5 variances. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All 3 sign, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
What a way to end the meeting. Huh?
No, that works, Sally.
Yeah, true. Fair enough, man. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Time.
We have difficulty with some.
I gotta get the right body, that's somebody.
Yeah.
Well.
How many numbers?
She worked at school.
First, I would say she taught the kids, that's usually what happens.
Yeah, she was at secretary at school for a while.
Who was?
He was a sports school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen him before.
I didn't. For I've met, I didn't know him, I've met him.
Tough situation.
Yeah. it is.
Won't be the last one out.
No, I was gonna say how many more.
Already had a few things already in that.
Yeah,
You just hope there's a neighbor that would sell you half an acre or whatever you need to get by and make it work, you know?
One thing out in the rural parts, people value the land.
Mhm. Agreed. I'm the same way.
Great, yeah.
I value my land. That's why I said, you know, the cold Keats thing, I understand. If I'm gonna sell some of my land, no one's putting up the lagoon on my land.
yeah.
Easy to ask someone else, but enough is my land. I wouldn't be overly in favor of that.
But then we got just allowing access.
Mhm.
Access. We said, let the wives get together.
This 4? Yeah, 4 signatures. Thank you.
Yeah, looking at the map, that's. Why I'm afraid of getting back in there.
Yeah, some of those, if you've ever been back in there, it is
It's not just
amazing.
wiggly, but it's up and down and stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
We've gone a few times out there just to drive and see some of these different places, and man, you can.
Yeah, you can almost get lost.
Oh, you can easily.
Yeah. I don't have anything else this morning, so
Good.
I'm good too.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. We adjourn the August 29th meeting of the Raleigh County Commission.
I would second that.
Moving second to adjourn meeting, all in favor.
Aye.
I'm.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a good week.
You too.
You guys adjourned.